Test, test, test. Yeah. Yep, there we go. Now I got sound. What did
Whose phone am I hearing?
That's mine because I'm wanting to find if I have sound online. Okay, well we got sound. I don't know what you just plugged in, David, but it fixed it.
Replugged it in, but
All right.
shouldn't be that jacked. But
Somebody out there tell me I got sound on Facebook. I got sound on my phone,
George, this is not a professional operation, unfortunately.
as he can tell.
You're doing great.
Oh,
guys.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, good.
It
I
did-
hear us.
Hollywood, man.
I think we will go with a restart there, Don. We can hear you now. Thanks, Rochelle.
Okay, whose phone is it that I'm listening to?
I'm going to turn mine off now
Thank
that I
you.
know we have sound.
All right. Well, we're going to try this one more time, except we're not going to do the promo now, George, so just stay with us. We'll be with you in just a moment. So let's begin the program at 12:06, shall we? Mr. Mars, why don't you have a seat, sir?
don't mind if I do.
Give me that. I hear nothing and I see nothing. You got to shut off, Don?
I do. From Studio A in Texas, welcome to In Wheel Time, the most awarded, and we're not sure why. #1 weekly car talk show. Today's show will look at a Corvette and a woman by the name of Betty Skelton. It's going to be a great show, and I think that you're truly going to enjoy today's program. We'll talk to her nephew and childhood friend of mine, Mr. George Skelton. We'll talk with the folks at the Corvette Museum and Betty's Corvette Club in Florida, where she was a member. We'll also have reviews of the Hyundai Sonata and the Chevy Traverse. Our weekly Ram Tracks and Jeep Trails features are on the menu, along with this week's Auto News. It's all just ahead on today's jam-packed 2-hour in-wheel time car show. Late, but better than ever. For Saturday, May 16th, 2020. Howdy, along with Mike out of this world, Mars.
Howdy, Mom.
King Conrad DeLong.
Now that we're up and running.
And my name is Dave Smith. So glad that you could join us today. Wow. You know,
That was exciting.
it was exciting.
That moment of
what would we
fear.
ever do without David Ainsley, our chief engineer?
I have no idea.
Well, we wouldn't be on the air.
Aren't we
We'd be-
glad he's here?
Yeah, we'd be doing something different.
Seems like every week a
I'd be-
different wire goes bad.
I'd be home
somewhere,
washing my car right
and
now.
Ainsley finds the wire.
Well, or the box that the wire goes into, which was the case this morning.
Well,
So at any rate, we thank you for joining us again here on this Saturday. We've had one heck of a night here in the Houston area with the big thunderstorms, but we're not going to get into all of that. All is well, and we are here. So today we're going to talk about Betty Skelton. So I went on Wikipedia because it seems to be the easiest place to go and get a biography. And so let me give you just a little background on Betty Skelton. Betty Skelton was a land speed record holder and aerobatics pilot who set 17 aviation and automobile records. She was known as the First Lady of Firsts and helped create opportunities for women in aviation, auto racing, aeronautics, and advertising, believe it or not. She was born in Pensacola, Florida, June 28, 1926. Parents, teenagers, she was their only child. As a toddler, she was fascinated by airplanes that flew over her home near the Naval Air Station there. Preferred model airplanes over dolls. When she turned 8, she started reading books on aviation, made her parents realize that she was serious about flying. Whenever they could, the family spent time at the municipal airport. How many of us were taken down to the municipal airport to watch the planes come and go?
oh, all the time.
Yeah,
All the time.
Love that. Well, she would talk to pilots and talk the pilots themselves into letting her ride with them on local flights. At the age of 18, she received her commercial pilot license.
She-
18.
She was capable of soloing at the age of 12, but you couldn't solo until you were 16 is when she got her ability to fly solo in a single-engine plane.
She became a U.S. female aerobatic champion in 1948, 49, and 50. Her last 2 championships made her and her plane, Little Stinker, famous. That plane now resides in the Smithsonian. In '56, she became an advertising executive with Campbell Ewald and worked for with General Motors on and in their TV and print ads. She was GM's first woman technical narrator at major auto shows, where she would talk about and demonstrate automotive features, later becoming official spokeswoman for Chevrolet. While she worked with Chevrolet, she set numerous records with Corvettes and owned a total of 10 models. Between '56 and '57, Harley Earl and Bill Mitchell designed a special translucent gold Corvette just for her, which she drove to Daytona in 1957 to serve as the NASCAR pace car. So she died, by the way, August 31st of 2011. Hall of Fame inductions include Florida Sports Hall of Fame, 1977, International Motorsports Hall of Fame, NASCAR International Automotive Hall of Fame in 1983. By the way, she was the first woman. Women in Aviation Pioneer Hall of Fame, Corvette Hall of Fame, 2001, Motorsports Hall of Fame of America in 2008. On the line with me now is a friend of mine that goes back, oh gosh, I guess to grade school, George. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. We spent a lot of time together, Donnie.
Yes, we did. Me in the principal's office, and you in study hall, I think.
Our home ec class.
Is that why it was the home ec class?
You and I had that together, I think.
Well, I majored in home ec, in foods, actually, and so I stuck it all the way out just to get out of all those other ugly classes that I was in.
Either that or wood shop.
Wood shop. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Well, George, it's great to have you on. And, it was George that was really instrumental in introducing us to his aunt, Betty Skelton. And we started talking, and one thing led to another. And Betty was obviously in the Corvette Hall of Fame. And George says, "You want a Corvette? You don't know about Aunt Betty?" And I said, "No, I don't." So one thing led to another. Conrad kind of headed up all of the investigation into Betty with George. And George, unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to meet her, but boy, she would have fit right in with us.
Oh, let me tell you, she would have loved your show because you talked about cars and you talked about how they run and speed and all the things that she loved.
Did you ever have a chance to ride with her in any of her Corvettes?
The 65 Stingrays what kind of triggered me to contact you, because I hadn't seen that car. I was in 9th grade at Johnston, and my dad told me that Betty was going to be at McRoberts Chevrolet on Saturday to do a demo for Chevrolet. And so I walked over there and saw her and walked up to her. I thought she wouldn't remember me, and she says, "Oh yeah, you're Howard's son." And so anyway, she got through with her deal, and she said, "How are you going to get home?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to walk." She said, "Well, come on, I'll give you a ride."
Oh gosh, that had to be wonderful.
So we went and got in that 65 Stingray, the red one, and we headed down Post Oak to Willow Bend, where I lived in Willow Bend, and stopped. She says, "Well, what do you think?" And I looked at her and I said, "You want to get a wheel burger at Chuck Wagon?"
Yes. Wheel burger or spoke burger or hub burger, one of those.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And so we stopped at Chuck Wagon and got a hamburger, and I got to talk to her. And not a little bit earlier, that would have been, I don't know, 66, 65. She had just set the land speed record out at Bonneville. And I asked her, I said, "What was that like? What was the scariest moment?" And she said, "Well, over 300, the wheels started coming off the ground."
Oh my gosh.
And she was driving an Art Arfon's Green Monster, correct?
That's right, Cyclops.
And that was with the jet engine.
That's right. And it was unbelievable. She went 314 miles an hour, I think, on one run, averaged 277, I think.
Out of an F-86 Saberjet. How awesome was that?
Unbelievable. But that Corvette she had, I'll never forget that sound. And from driving Corvettes, there's just a special sound that Corvettes make. That 427, it was a 4-speed. She was driving that car back to Florida and was doing some promo spots as she was coming down and was headed back east. And so anyway, here I am. I'm in the car with the world's fastest woman, and none of my friends are seeing me. This was embarrassing. If I told them that, you would have gone, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, of course we would have. I mean, you know, we were kids in school at the time. Nobody would have ever believed that, but I do remember McRobert Chevrolet very well up there on Post Oak. That was the first chance that I had a chance to see a real Corvette in person
Right.
on the showroom floor, and it happened to be a baby blue one in there, and I think it was about 1965. Of course, the
Yes,
doors were
sir.
locked, couldn't sit inside of it, but wow, what a treat
No,
that was.
that became AJ Foy. And
Yes.
so anyway, Betty took me home, which is a couple more blocks down, and my parents were there, and they came out and visited for a little bit. She had to go to another promo, but that was about the time my dad had the Metropolitan Theater, and he had started broadcasting the closed circuit Indianapolis races. And of course,
I vaguely remember that, yes, because you couldn't see them on television at the time.
no, and it was like $5 to get in, and he had like 100 cases of beer and all the mechanics in town, and it was a black and white projection screen. It was terrible. But the very first race in '64 was the one where 20 seconds into the race, they had that big wreck, and two guys got killed. And of course, all the mechanics from Houston were going, "Did AJ make it through the smoke?" And sure enough, he did, and he went on to win the race. Well, Betty helped a bunch with promoting those kinds of NASCAR type connections and such. But we used to love to go to Autorama there down at Sam Houston Coliseum and hear her talk about Chevrolets. She was the voice of Chevrolet.
That is so funny because, you know, even when I think of Chevrolet back in the mid 50s, I think of Dinah Shore and Buy Your Chevrolet in the USA theme. But I also recall that there was a woman spokesperson that would show up in some of the ads back in that day, and that was her.
Yeah, it was. In fact, my favorite picture of her is this one with the gold Corvette that Mitchell built for her. And it's amazing. You know, I was lucky to live during her Chevrolet era rather than the aviation era. And this is a picture of my mother and Betty at the Houston Municipal Airport, where she used to fly in. And of course, I was born then when she did all those records, but I followed her on Corvettes and the different Corvettes she had when she passed away. She got the Corvette Hall of Fame, and those folks will be on, and they're great folks. But she would have been buried in that Corvette if she could have.
Well, is it on your mother's side or your dad's side of the family?
My dad.
It was
the
your
first cousin. They were first cousins. My family was all railroad people living here in Central Texas, and they moved down to Florida with a railroad, and that's where she got into aviation and stuff. My uncle Joe was a Hellcat pilot trainer at Pensacola Air Base. And an interesting fact about Betty, not people know that she flew in the very first Blue Angels exhibition that they ever did. They called her the sweetheart of the Blue Angels.
Wow.
Because she took that plane that's right above me and flew right at them, and then they would go divide off, and she'd fly right through them at age probably about 18.
And George, that plane behind you, is that the one that hangs in the Smithsonian?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
That's the one at Dulles at the Air and Space Museum. It's the very first plane you see when you come in, and it tells the story about her. And of course, these histories are all available online. I posted a couple of links. In fact, I posted a link to her actually flying on your website, and it's amazing. I still this day, and that's why she got selected to be astronaut 7.5.
Yes, and we didn't even touch on that because back in the day, back in the '60s, she was at the height of her aviation career, and actually beyond, truly.
Yeah.
And she was part of that whole Mercury 7 crew.
Yeah, she went through the astronaut training, if I read correctly, and evaluated for an opportunity to be an astronaut.
She was, and of course, at that day and age, she said she was 25 years ahead of her time because they weren't going to send a woman into space. The problem was that she exceeded the astronauts on most of the tests, and NASA didn't want to release that a 5 foot 300 pound woman could do that, and it was pretty tough. And so I remember reading about Scott Carpenter's wife complaining about the astronaut training and the time that they're away from their families and stuff. And Betty's response was, "If he doesn't want to go, I'll fly."
George, it's great to see you. Great to talk to you. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to have Derek Moore, the Director of Marketing and Communications of National Corvette Museum. We're going to continue our discussion of Betty Skelton. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. It's great to see you, and I hope to see you at the high school reunion.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thanks,
my friend. You take care of yourself.
All right.
George Skelton. This is a fascinating story that we've been working on now for over a month, I think. And it's truly remarkable.
Yeah, George had reached out to us, letting us know his relationship with Betty, and we thought, what a killer story this is. Yeah. And I've been spending a month now putting it all together. We really appreciate his time helping us do this.
Just ahead, it's the In Wheel Time New Car Showroom, and we're going to review the Hyundai Sonata. Hey, you know, you can always take our show on the road with you, right in your hip pocket on your smartphone. Yeah, we're on InWheelTime.com, Periscope, Facebook, and we're also on YouTube. God help us all. We'll be back after a quick break.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Thanks for joining us for today's In Wheel Time Car Show. Time now to check in our new car showroom, and let's see what's in there. Mr. Mars had a chance to drive the Hyundai Sonata.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, we had a 2015 Sonata in the family, and I was really interested in seeing the changes after 5 years, and I was really impressed and really surprised by what I found. So we're talking about a mid-size sedan here. And it's actually in its 8th gen. It's all front-wheel drive this year. It comes in 4 trim levels. You got an SE, SEL, SEL Plus, and you have a Limited. We happen to have the Sonata Limited. 5-passenger. It's got an all-new sleek exterior on it. Makes it look a little more expensive than what it used to. I thought it was just a completely different look to it. And up front, because of that, you're going to find
Fits
that you
your
got
lifestyle.
Yeah, it got a new gloss black front grille at the limited edition. Got LED lighting all the way around. And from a profile perspective, it's got a coupe-like. A lot of them are trying to get a coupe-like look to it because it just looks a little more sleek. And it's almost got a fastback styling to it. Got heated side mirrors. We had the panoramic sunroof. We were rolling on some nice 18-inch alloy wheels. And one of the things that I thought was interesting that you can tell, the limited edition has a dual chrome tips for the exhaust. You get down to the SE and the SEL, it's just a single. So you can kind of tell the difference in them real quick that way. Now you get to the interior, got a lot of nice things going on there. Got leather seating surfaces. The front seats are heated and ventilated. The rear seats actually got an armrest with cup holders on it. Got some nice technology. Got a 10.25-inch touch screen in the dash. It's optional at the, it's standard for the Limited. It's optional at the other end. But it's also got a 12.3-inch LCD screen. Now, this is where the gauges would typically be. And one of the really cool things I thought about this, it's got the surround view camera, but it's also got blind view monitors is what they call it. So that whenever you turn the turn signal on, so if you look at your gauges, you've got the speedometer and attack as you normally would. And as you turn on your turn signal, those turn into cameras. So if you're going to the right, the speedometer has a camera on the right side off the right side mirror so that you can see down the side of it. You go left, the tack turns into one. So you've got these 2 cameras there that give you a really good view. They'll work at really good highway speeds just like they will in a parking lot. So anytime you turn the turn signal on, I thought that was a great idea. I really loved playing with that. Now, I also had the Bose audio system with 12 speakers and 9-inch subwoofer, so that was really nice to play with, too, while we were rolling down the highway with a heads-up display to keep track of everything that was going on. So if you want to make all this stuff run, and you've got to get into the under the hood, there's two different engines. The 2.5 liter, that's a standard motor. It's kind of a unique setup. It's got 191 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque. But we had the 1.6 liter turbo. So it's got 180 horsepower. So you kind of wonder, well, it's a little bit less horsepower, but it's got 195 pound-feet of torque on it. So it's got more torque. So if you're looking for something down on the bottom end, you're really going to appreciate the fact that it may have less horsepower, but it's got a little more get up and go juice because they both run the same 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, the EPA says if you're in the city, you should be looking for about 27 miles per gallon. Out on the highway, about 36. Combined, about 31. I got right over 29, right at 29.5 on it. Because we did a lot of research because we found out we really like the smooth acceleration.
Yeah, right. It's such a research. In other words, he had his foot into it to the floor.
Well, we had to make sure everything worked because we found out, like the tranny, it's not like some of the little four-cylinders where it wants to search gears. It stuck to a gear. Once it found it,
you're referring to the
it.
transmission.
Transmission,
Okay,
excuse
I just
me.
wanted to verify that.
Yeah, and it, by it being a turbo, because of the extra torque it had on the bottom end, you didn't realize it was a turbo. There was no turbo lag to speak of. So it has a really nice sporty feel when you're driving it, but you really don't have that rough sports suspension feel to it like you're trying to drive in a wannabe race car. Got a nice quiet cabin. It's got a nice roomy feel to it.
I could say so many things, but I won't. But anyway, go ahead.
If you're looking for something to compare this to, you might look at the Honda Accord. It's going to start at about $24,020. Gets up to $36,250 real easy. Toyota Camry starts at $24,425, bumps up around $35,130. Even a Nissan Altima starts at $24,100 and goes up into the $35,000 range. So a base Sonata, you can get into a base one of these, the SE model, for $23,600. Now, we had the Limited. So the base on the Limited, by the time we had the leather seating and all the goodies that come with that, is $33,500. The MSRP, as tested for this vehicle, is $34,890, right in line with everybody else in that category. So if you're looking in that category, you want to make sure you look at all of them. And I would look at this one. I really like the way they restyled the outside of it.
It's a good-looking car.
I've always liked Hyundais and Kias. Make fun of me if you will, but I think it's
sometimes they had a little bit of a cheap look to it, but this one really, I like the way this looks.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of value for the money.
Oh, it's got a lot of content for the money.
Hey, I want to remind everybody that Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer, from mild to wild lift kits, custom wheels and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps. Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design and upgrade a plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com. Back with Conrad's Car Clinic after this.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show him you love him. Keep him safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Social distancing slows the spread of coronavirus, so we should all stay home to lower the risk for everyone. More info at coronavirus.gov. Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Thanks for joining us on today's In Wheel Time car show. Time now for Conrad's Car Clinic. I have no clue what you're talking about. We've been so distracted with
Trying to get on the air
and mechanical things here within Studio A.
So we'll talk a little bit about some electronic and mechanical things on your car. We're going to talk today a little bit about oxygen sensors. You know, everybody talks about having a faulty oxygen sensor in their car. An oxygen sensor basically tells the computer, it's like a nose for the computer, and it tells the computer how much oxygen is in the airstream of the exhaust system, and it takes it at multiple points in the exhaust system to tell the efficiency of the catalytic converter. So the first thing is it goes, how much oxygen's in the exhaust stream before the catalytic converter, and then it does the same thing after the catalytic converter to determine whether or not the catalytic converter is cleaning itself efficiently. The oxygen level in the fuel in the exhaust tells the computer how much fuel to add or subtract from the vehicle. my personal opinion, lots of oxygen sensors are being replaced because the car sets an O2 code that's caused by something else. A vacuum leak will cause an oxygen sensor code because it's lean. So the O2 sensor says it's lean because there's an air leak inside the induction system. So the O2 sensor says it's lean. Well, somebody goes and gets a quick read on an oxygen sensor at the parts store, and they sell them an oxygen sensor, and they put it on. Well, that doesn't fix the reason it's lean, so they still have to go back and fix the vacuum leak. But O2 sensors, when they are on, it means it's time to go. When they do turn the check engine light on, either that it's lean or it's rich, it's time to go get your car looked at relatively quickly, because the longer you go, the more damage it's going to do to the catalytic converter. Because if the engine's running lean, the fuel system's going to be adding fuel and your fuel economy goes down. If the engine's running rich, it means it's actually contaminating the catalytic converter. So when that check engine light comes on, go get it looked at relatively quick, and let's figure out what's going on. Because the longer you drive with a check engine light on, the more consequential damage can happen to your vehicle.
And let me tell you my experience with catalytic converters. My oldest daughter's old Camaro, it had some sort of problem, and it had to have the catalytic converter replaced on it. I bought it. It was used, right? The car, V6 cylinder engine. Well, I put an aftermarket catalytic converter on it. It went out.
Yeah.
And then, because it was cheap, that's why I bought it.
Uh-huh.
And then I had to have another one put on it under warranty. And it went out.
Yep.
It would have been better for me to go ahead and pay the $1,500 that the catalytic converter cost from the factory.
Oh, yeah. As opposed to putting $500 ones on.
Yeah.
And that's actually not uncommon. Catalytic converters, the reason they're expensive is there is what's called noble metal inside, platinum, palladium. It kind of changes, and that is the catalyst.
I used to sing at the Palladium, but that's another story.
That was in your high pump, in your red high pumps, and
Yes.
Long story short, so the amount of that noble metal that's in a catalytic converter
metal
determines the cost of the catalytic converter. So a lot of people go in and they fail state inspection because a catalytic converter efficiency code, just put the cheap catalytic converter on it, and it gets them past this year, but it generally won't get them past the second year. So it's well worth investing in a quality catalytic converter
$1,500
than a cheap one. And that's not outrageously expensive. There are some that are going to go somewhere north of $3,000 and $4,000 on some of the high-dollar European imports.
Because I know that there was a trend several years ago, especially if you had a truck that sat off the ground, where thieves would go and steal catalytic converters out from underneath the car.
Still happens today.
With a cutting torch or a
go in with a sawzall and cut off both sides of it, and then you'd go buy a used catalytic converter, and it was yours at a salvage yard.
Oh, my God. More of In Wheel Time after this quick break.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show him you love him. Keep him safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Social distancing slows the spread of coronavirus, so we should all stay home to lower the risk for everyone. More info at coronavirus.gov. Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is your weekly award-winning car talk show, In Wheel Time. Coming up this half hour, our Ram Tracks feature and the stories making automotive news headlines this week. Howdy, along with Mike out of this world Mars down there, King Conrad DeLong, I'm Don Armstrong. We've been talking about a very famous Corvette lady named Betty Skelton. And Betty had a long history with Chevrolet and Corvette, and she knew all the movers and shakers within Chevrolet, especially back in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. She ultimately became inducted into the Corvette Hall of Fame.
And the National Corvette Museum.
At the National Corvette Museum. So let's talk to Derek Moore. He's the Director of Marketing and Communications at the National Corvette Museum out in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Derek, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, not a problem, guys. Good to see you as well.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your Saturday to join us. So, Betty Skelton, a great hero across several platforms, including aeronautics, and namely Corvettes. And she knew Bill Mitchell. She knew Zora Arkus Duntov, who I fortunately had the opportunity to meet before his death, and a great honor that was at a Corvette show that I attended. I'm a Corvette guy, have been for years and years and years, and I know that you being with the Corvette Museum, you've experienced a whole lot of us crazy Corvette people up there, and I know that. Not only have you experienced us, but still turning out a great product with the all-new C8 Corvette. I mean, what else can we say? Let's talk for a little bit about the Corvette Museum and what somebody can see when they go there. Unfortunately, I haven't made it there yet, but I do have plans, and it may be this year.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing you up here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So really, I mean, when folks come to the museum, once we reopen from all the craziness that's going on in the world right now, I mean, they get a real rundown of Corvette history in the museum galleries themselves, starting out with actually some pre-Corvette history, talking about, the things that influenced Harley Earl, Ed Cole, Zora Duntov, all those guys to create Corvettes. So European sports cars, early fiberglass automobiles, pre-Corvette. And of course, one of the earliest Corvette frames still in existence, we have the frame number 3 on display, which is a cutaway Corvette now. It's quite famous in the Corvette world. People can get a good look at that. And then as they walk through the museum, they get kind of the whole story of Corvette history, how it evolved over time, the people that were involved in it. And we're actually getting ready to open 2 new major exhibit galleries here in the museum, kind of 2 refreshed spaces. Our performance gallery is going to be all new when we reopen, highly interactive space for people to explore the performance and racing aspects of Corvette history. And then the other gallery is very, very tied into what you just mentioned, the new 2020 mid-engine Stingray Corvette. We actually have an exhibit coming in that we partnered with GM on, entitled The Vision Realized, and it is the history of the development of the mid-engine Corvette all the way back to Zora Arkus Duntov and Serve 1 and Serve 2, which everyone might recognize as the Chevrolet engineering research vehicles that Duntov built, that were both mid-engine concept cars.
So, Derek, what about Betty Skelton? I mean, she was quite the pioneer with Corvettes, because this was in the early days of the Corvette, and she was really instrumental in a lot of the things that we now come to recognize and know about the Corvette. Handling, working with, and being part of the entire Corvette experience. Harley Earl, Zora Duntov, she was there at the time.
That is 100% correct. And yeah, she's a huge, huge influence. Unfortunately, we don't have any of her cars in our collection yet. Obviously, we always hope that one of those cars will make its way here to the museum to live and be on exhibit. But in our new performance gallery, there's a couple artifacts that we're going to put in there to talk about women in Corvette's racing history. And I actually have one of those with me today. It's not a car, obviously, but I actually have, hopefully everyone can see this at home. You'll notice I have my white gloves on, of course.
Absolutely. Wow, look at that.
But this is, and I probably can't get it close enough to the camera, this is the 1956 Daytona Beach Trophy.
Oh,
so
my
this is
gosh.
the trophy from when she ran 137.773 miles per hour on Daytona Beach. The same time Duntov was there driving with her in 56. So that's going to be on display to talk about Betty's influence in, Corvette history. Of course, as you say, they built a special 1956 Corvette for her. She drove it down to Daytona Beach, ran the record run at Daytona, had a lot of feedback as well on Corvettes that she drove. And then they also built her a special car in 57, special Corvette, Harley Earl and Bill Mitchell. that she paced all of the NASCAR races.
Was that the gold one?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact color. It was a weird color that they named it, but it was kind of a gold tone. Yep.
And does the museum know where some of these cars might be in other collections, or are some of them just kind of missing in action at this point?
We do. We actually know where the record run car is. It's in a private collection, as well as a car that Michael and I talked about that I think is the one that caught his attention. Betty's 1965 convertible Corvette, the red one with the black interior.
Right, yeah.
That was found in a garage in Pennsylvania just a few years ago. And it was actually on display here in an exhibit we did entitled From Gas Station to Space Station. It was the connection between Corvette and the astronauts. And we talked a lot about what you guys talked about with George, which was Betty's involvement in the Mercury 7 program. And so we know where that car lives as well. And, it's always available to be loaned to us to be on display here to talk about Betty's connection to Corvette. And of course, that's the car that she got while she was working at Campbell Ewald, advertising, as part of the advertising firm that did ads for Corvette. And that car actually appeared in a Campbell Ewald advertisement, and then it was given to Betty after that.
Derek, do you have a lot of people that reach out to you and say, hey, look what I've got? Would you like to see it? How about some pictures of it? That sort of thing when it comes to Corvettes? I would imagine that you do.
Oh yes, yeah, I get them all the time, and I don't want to sound like I'm jumping on you here. I wanted to correct one thing you said.
Yes,
I'm actually director of collections and curator here. I think Katie Ellison is going to be on next.
Correct.
And she is our director of marketing.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, thank you. Collections and curator.
But
Yes,
and Derek, in that, I worked for General Motors for a long time, and I was actually assigned to Bowling Green for 10 years, 99 to 2009. And I understand that the National Corvette Museum doesn't necessarily take cars on consignment, but a lot of collections will place cars in your care for display for a period of time. So some of those really unique cars, you still have an opportunity to display to the Corvette fanatics that are out there.
Yeah, that's correct. In the museum world, we bring in artifacts, as we refer to them, on loan. So cars come in on loan to us typically for about a year. We do have our own collection of Corvettes. The Corvette Museum now has just about, I think we're at like 98 Corvettes in our collection, and a couple other cars that relate to Corvette history that are not Corvette that live in our collection. But yes, we do bring in some of the significant cars on loan. Right now, we've got the 1957 SS that Duntov built for the Sebring, 12 Hours of Sebring. That's on loan from Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. But just next week, we have some of you may know the car, the Dinwiddie Corvette, Dinwiddie Racing Corvette. It's a C3 Corvette that Lynn St. James actually drove back in the 1970s.
Yes.
That's coming in on loan from a private owner next week to be in our new performance gallery. Another one of those connections to women in Corvette history.
And actually, we have the gentleman that owns the 65 Corvette that Betty had that was found in the garage. He's talking to us on our Facebook page right now as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So kind of a small world, but we've been trying to reach out to as many people as we can to let them know that we were going to have you guys on to talk about Betty, and then later with Katie to talk about the museum in general.
So, Derek, are they making Corvettes up there right now?
They are, it sounds like from all the news we're hearing, they're going to start up production again in the next couple of weeks. So
Very good.
We're going to see some 2020 Corvettes rolling off the line.
And we assume that the museum is open.
No, actually, we're still closed as of right now. The state of Kentucky has not opened museums, educational facilities, and tourist attractions yet. I know Katie's working hard on getting, trying to help get us open. So.
Any inkling as to when that might happen?
We're hoping within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, well, that's good.
Katie may have more answers for you because she's been more on top of that. I'm more trying to get the exhibits ready for that day we open.
for that lucky day.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Derek, it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today and talking about Betty and all of the collections. Derek is the collections and curator director there at the Corvette Museum. Again, thank you, and we hope to see you when I come up there and get a tour.
I think we need to go up there.
I'll be giving you
agree.
a call. Yeah, I'll be giving you a call.
all of you.
We'll take the In Wheel Time bus up there. How's that?
That sounds great. Appreciate you guys having us on, and thanks. It's been great.
Thank you
Thank
very much,
you.
Derek. We really appreciate it. Derek Moore, Collections and Curator Director, National Corvette Museum. Time now for our Ram Tracks feature, In Wheel Time's weekly look into the Ram Nation. And as always, Mr. Mars has that.
Yes, sir. I was out looking for new stuff because we have a Ram truck that we use for our remote gear when we go on remotes. We haul stuff, and I was looking for some things to make our life a little bit better. And I ran across. I was out at Mopar, and I did not know, but Mopar has a store on Amazon now that you can literally go to Amazon and buy stuff directly from Mopar. And I'm not talking about just any little old thing. I'm talking about you want to buy a trailer tow hitch for your rig, you can get it out there. You can get hitch receivers, like if you want to put a fifth wheel in it. You can get side mirrors. I mean, just a ton of stuff that if you're looking for your Mopar vehicles, you can go to Amazon and get it, and you're still buying from Mopar. And I thought it was so cool that you can get all this stuff up there.
So we know what you do in your spare time. You're on there looking for stuff for your own truck.
Well, no, it's for the in-wheel time truck.
You're
You know?
such a liar. He's such a liar.
Hey, if it's tax deductible, why not, right? Just apply it as a business expense.
Oh, God. All right. All right, just ahead. Driving vacations. Are they back? And this week's automotive news here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. We are all things automotive.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time program. We are so glad that you could join us today. I ran across this story on Automotive News, and it struck a nerve. So we're at the age where it was too expensive, for the most part, at least for my family, for us to take an airplane trip somewhere. Is that the case with you?
Still is.
Still is. Well, I mean,
Well, they don't fly in and out of Meterville.
But you sit there. In my case, I want to go do something with my 6 grandkids. I mean, that's 8 airplane tickets.
So
we drive.
It's your grandkids. You're telling us on the air that you wouldn't spend the money just to spend time with your grandkids? Shame on you, Mike.
I can spend more time driving on the vacation, though.
With 8 kids screaming in the back.
6 kids.
6 kids.
Well, so this story covers the planet Earth and what we're going through currently. In Frankfurt, real estate assistant Anna Polasek is driving to work for the first time in her career. She says, I definitely have always preferred to chill out in the train instead of being stuck at traffic lights. But days after Germany ended its lockdown, her company is asking returning employees to avoid public transportation at all costs. Gasoline demand is rebounding there, suggesting that the car, at least for now, is making a comeback.
Thank goodness.
As lockdowns ease and parts of the world reopen for business, driving has emerged as the socially distant transportation mode of choice and is offering some near-term relief to an oil market fresh off its worst crash in history and reeling from an unprecedented collapse in energy demand. So, put all that together, and it really makes sense. Instead of taking the family on an airplane trip to Orlando,
Take a car ride.
Take a car ride. Go visit Aunt Mary in Wisconsin.
It's a little out of the way to Orlando from here.
But what
but
I'm saying
okay.
is
how impactful COVID is going to be for lifestyle changes. You know, not taking an airplane, taking a car.
Do you want
You're not going to carpool as much anymore. And who wants that 6-year-old kid blowing out the candles on his birthday cake that you're about to eat?
I saw that post on Facebook. That's right. So there's all of that. All these ramifications. In Berlin, among the first European cities to relax its lockdown, public transit use remains down 61%, while the number of people driving has recovered to 28% below normal. Only 28% below normal, according to data from Apple, which tracks requests for directions on its popular Maps app. In the U.S., gasoline consumption is clawing back from record lows, rising by 400,000 barrels a day during the week ended May 1st. Cities in Florida, one of the first American states to reopen, have seen fuel sales rebound to 30% below levels from 50% just weeks ago. That's according to the Florida Petroleum Marketers Association. And gasoline's recovery may extend into the summer, which I'm almost positive that it will, since summer's right around the corner. Amid changes to the way people vacation. In the U.S., demand for long-haul recreational vehicles has picked up as people opt for road trips over air travel. John Gray, CEO of RV Share, said bookings in some areas have more than doubled compared with last year. He says, we saw an almost overnight doubling of bookings as lockdowns showed signs of ending, he said. RV vacation with the family. Go to a national park. Social distancing, not a problem for the most part.
That's pretty easy to do.
And you get to spend time with the family, and what a neat vacation that is. Well, for most, I guess. Amid the post-lockdown revival of the car, electric vehicles are likely to be left on the sidelines as the struggling economy and cheap gasoline stifles demand for cleaner-burning autos. So I'm thinking it's going to be a summer Hello, Stuckey's.
Yes.
Stuckey's.
Hey, there's a new Stuckey's out on Interstate 10. Don't laugh.
It's called Buc-ee's.
No, there's a new Stuckey's out there.
Yeah, but Buc-ee's has got better bathrooms.
Well, yeah.
And they're all the way to Florida now.
Yeah.
So there's that. I just thought that it was an interesting story and thought that I would pass that along to you. Do we have anything on the events calendar? I know that on the racing calendar and the car calendar we've got stuff.
Some stuff is coming up. Well, you know, one of the things I do is a friend of mine, Joseph Pledger, he runs a Facebook page about Houston area car meets, and it kind of went blank for a while, and now they're starting to come back on. Tonight, Nifty 50s is off. Randy had posted that he's going to cancel it for tonight because there's some weather issues. But tonight at 6 p.m. there's going to be the Kima car meet. And I know Lisa's probably going to have her 442 out there again. Freddy's Steak Burger monthly cruise-in Magnolia is tonight at 6 p.m. Tomorrow morning, the first Camaros of Houston cruise is going to be from Katy, leaving from the Best Buy there in Katy. And then one of the things, and Joseph Pledger and I talked about this, have you seen on Facebook some of these birthday cruises people are doing for the kids?
Yeah,
drive-bys.
So the drive-bys. So there is going to be a birthday cruise for Evelyn, and that's going to be Sunday night. Meet up at 6:15 p.m., drive out at 6:30 p.m., and you're going to meet up at 7500 Eldridge Parkway in Houston to go do a drive-by for Evelyn's 6th birthday.
Speaking of which, I was fortunate to fly over the Ball High School graduation parade on Seawall Boulevard this past week, which was really, really cool. I did not realize that Ball High School is only a few blocks from Seawall. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So they gathered up down there at the high school in a line on the road that goes right up there to the seawall, right? And so everybody's social distancing in trucks, back of trucks, whatever the case may be. Then they all get out on Seawall Boulevard and drove all the way down Seawall Boulevard to 28th Street, I think it was, is where they ended. And then and people lined up there and at the beach, and everybody's waving. Hey,
what a great memory! You know, as a graduation ceremony. It's going to be a struggle for a lot of the 2020 kids, but what a great memory to have been able to do something so unique.
Seawall.
Right. Yeah. How unique is that?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty clever.
Oh, well, you need to get a microphone, but
Yes,
Jeff Zekin says that may be something that they
Well-
continue in the future, or some of these what I'll call elevated graduation programs, as opposed to sitting in an auditorium watching the kids march across the stage. Stage.
Yeah.
Now they may have other ways to do these types of graduations.
So they need to combine that with the Mardi Gras, 'cause that's where we watch the Mardi Gras parades from. So get the Mardi Gras floats out for graduation and just do it all.
And don't go to New Orleans.
Exactly.
Yeah, do it in your own backyard. All right, we've got.
There's usually a lot of alcohol involved in Mardi Gras celebrations.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think that mixes
There is
quite well
that.
with a high school graduation.
Oh,
We
yeah.
got news stories coming up next.
If Baby could talk, she'd say a lot. You'd know what she's thinking and what makes her happy. But unfortunately, Baby can't talk or remind you you're the one taking her to daycare today. And she won't speak up if you drive straight to work like any other day and never think to look in the backseat. Every year, dozens of kids die from heat stroke in cars. No one is perfect, so set a reminder and always look before you lock. Where's Baby? Paid for by NHTSA.
Got a couple news stories I wanted to pass along. You a fan of Acura?
Yes.
Remember the big hoopla about the RLX sedan when it came out many years ago?
Kind of was an upscale from what was the Legend at one point.
Well, get over it because they're dropping it. They're not going to do it anymore.
Oh. So they're getting out of the full-size luxury vehicle.
They're not selling any. It's crazy. U.S. sales in 2019 numbered just over 1,000 units. Are you kidding? That was a nice car back in its day. So if you're looking to buy a nice car, I'm sure that you can get some hefty discounts on it. The Acura RLX going away. Uber and Grubhub. Who do you think's hurting worse?
I would think Uber, because it's kind of hard to socially distance when you're inside of a small car.
Uber Technologies has made an offer to acquire food delivery company Grubhub, according to people familiar with the matter. Companies are in talks about a deal and could reach an agreement as soon as this month. Uber is shutting its own food delivery unit called Uber Eats in 7 countries where the service has proven unpopular. Still, the food delivery industry remains wildly unprofitable. Unprofitable.
Really?
That's what it says. Even as people rely on delivery to stay in their homes.
Because I understood that the Uber Eats and Grubhub and all of those delivery systems, they took money from the restaurant to deliver, as well as an upcharge to the.
But the restaurants don't have any business. I mean, they got
Right.
some, but you've got to have a lot to be able to sustain.
And that's what I'd heard, is that those delivery services kind of really ate into what little profits were for the restaurants and their food delivery. So they weren't all that thrilled with
And,
it either.
they're not the only industry that's hurting. And we've been talking about it on this show, and that is the car rental companies. Hertz
Wow.
is just that close to going bankrupt. What a horrible thing that was. So here's the story. As Hertz Global Holdings works to stay out of bankruptcy, the company has canceled 90% of its new car purchases for the 2020 model year, a move likely to further suppress fleet sales by major automakers. That signaled the company's management doesn't expect a quick rebound in demand for rental cars over the next 12 months.
Well, it hurts more than just the rental agency. It hurts manufacturing, because the new vehicle manufacturers depend on that volume of vehicles going to those rental agencies to keep production runs.
Hertz has traditionally been a leader buyer of fleet cars from the Detroit 3. Last year, Hertz held as many as 567,600 vehicles in its U.S. fleet and another 204,000 in its international fleet, holding those in the U.S. for an average of 18 months. So they held a car for a year and a half. Its biggest suppliers of fleet vehicles were GM at 21%, Fiat at 18%, Ford at 12%, Kia 10%, Toyota 9%, Nissan 7%, and Hyundai at 5%. Hertz is tightening its corporate belt as it negotiates with lenders ahead of a May 22nd deadline.
Oh,
Hold
boy.
on.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's...
Well, come May 22nd, hopefully they have good news and basically can make the payment, because all of this loss of revenue due to COVID has hurt everybody, and that compounding effect of Hertz being in pain and not being able to buy vehicles, which is going to hurt the manufacturers in their production run.
And not
going
only
to
that,
stack
but
up.
think of all the cars that are now going to flood the used car market and how it's going to affect the entire used car industry.
Especially when sales are low, so it's going to depress prices even further.
Yeah. So hang on. We'll see what's going on. That's the end of this hour. We've got more of our show coming your way in about 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. From Studio A in Texas, it's hour number 2 of the number 1 weekly award-winning car talk show, when we can get it on the air, In Wheel Time. We are all things automotive. Just ahead, we continue our feature on the First Lady of Firsts, Betty Skelton, as we talk with the National Corvette Museum spokesperson and Betty's Corvette Club in Florida this half hour. In our new car showroom is the Chevy Traverse. I'll take you for a ride in that. And later, our Jeep Trails feature, along with the stories making automotive news headlines this week. It's all just ahead in this hour of the In Wheel Time Car Show. Together with Mike Out of This World Mars over there, King Conrad DeLong here, I'm Don Armstrong here. Over there is the famous Jeff Zekin. He's taking care of the television switching duties today. And over there is the famous David Ainsley. Glad you could join us today. Do we happen to have Katie with us yet?
Yes, we do. Just one moment, please, sir.
One moment, please. Please stand by. The fault does not lie with your set, speaking of old things.
There we go.
There she is.
Okay.
Hi, Katie.
Hey, guys.
Well, we have on the line with us right now Katie Ellison, and she, if I don't make a mistake on this one, she is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the National Corvette Museum. Am I right?
Correct.
Yay, I got one right. I totally screwed up your cohort over there. I gave him that title. That'd be Derek Moore, which is the Director of Collections and the Curator. You know, for us general population people, you guys work up there at the Corvette Museum. I mean, heck, you're just all lumped in together, and we're bowing down to you. So,
we're not worthy. We're
not worthy. So forgive us if we screw up the titles. But it's great to have you on. And I want,
for having me.
yeah. And so, and thank you for taking the time off of your Saturday to join us. So we want to know a little bit more about the Corvette Museum. We've all threatened to come up there, and now that I am the owner, proud owner of a C5 2001 Corvette, I guess it's my time. Now, this, mind you, is about the 8th Corvette that I have owned. So I've been a Corvette guy since 1976. Well, I just told my age, didn't I? I'm sorry, it was 1996. Never mind.
2006.
So I guess the first thing that comes to my mind, and you probably have heard the same thing, and probably don't like to hear it, but was the sinkhole in the middle of the museum that happened several years ago, and all of the cars that were lost, but most of them were revitalized. You guys redid them, and they're still on display there.
Yes, and actually, I can pull up real quick if I can share my screen.
Please
I've
do.
got the video footage of the collapse, and then we've got live webcams in the museum, so I can pull up live footage of what the cars look like now.
Well,
So
we
let's
would,
see.
we would love to see some of that. Because for those people that have just now joined us here on the In Wheel Time show, we're talking to Katie Ellison up there at the Corvette Museum. And if you're not familiar with this, this is an event that happened at the museum. How many years ago, Katie?
6 years ago in February. It was
Yeah.
6 years.
And it was, we were all just, oh no, this couldn't happen to our favorite car of all time, the Corvette. And lost a bunch of the cars down this ginormous sinkhole. And I assume that you guys have figured out what the problem was, other than the fact that there was a big hole in the floor.
Now, are you able to see my screen?
We are. Yes, we are.
Okay, we'll play this while I talk.
And that's the Blue Devil, isn't it? The original
Yes,
prototype for
we've
the
got Blue Devil
ZR1.
on the right, and then next to it, the orange car is the PPG Pace car. Next to that is the 1.5 millionth Corvette. So that building was built on a cave, but we didn't know the cave was there until this happened. So the roof of the cave collapsed, which is also known as a sinkhole. And here in a second, you'll see the cars.
You can see some of the floors starting to fall away already.
Yes. So we're lucky this happened about 5:30 in the morning, so no one was there.
Oh, look at that.
Our first employee arrived to work for the day about 6 a.m. Meanwhile, security had called Betty Hardison in our library and archives to let her know the alarm was going off. So, and this is some drone footage here inside the cave. We'll skip ahead.
And most of those cars you have restored, but I understand you've kept a couple of them, or at least one of them, in its damaged state, just to remind people of what had happened. Correct?
Yes. So we'll pull up.
Look at this.
We fixed 3 of them actually. GM fixed. Let's see.
The Blue Devil.
Yes, the Blue Devil and the 1 millionth. And then we fixed the 62. So these are live feeds inside of our SkyDome here. I'll make this a little bigger. So there you can see the 1 millionth Corvette that GM fixed. And the cool thing about this car was when they opened it up and started to do the repairs, you could see the signatures of all the people that built that car. So they were able to preserve all but one of the signatures and tracked down the lady that had signed the one part that they couldn't repair, had her come sign it and put it back on the car.
Oh, how nice is
How
that?
cool is that?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
So,
and then, of course, next to it is the Blue Devil. Now, that was the first one that we pulled out of the hole, and it actually cranked up and drove after we pulled
oh,
it
it
out.
did. I did
Yeah.
not know that. Well, did the I understand that there is still you can still see the actual hole in some part of the museum. Is that correct?
Yes. So over on this side here, you can see this is the ZR1 Blue Devil, the black car where you're seeing the back of it.
Yes.
There's actually a manhole right there in the corner that leads down into one side of the cave. So we still have access to get down in there if we need to.
Is it a naturally occurring cave, or was it built and nobody knew that it was down there?
It's naturally occurring. We're only 20 miles from Mammoth Cave National Park. So, at one time it could have been part of a larger cave system, and then years of sinkhole collapses will break off caves to form multiple smaller caves.
All right, so well,
okay.
let's change direction here. I just it's fascinating. We could spend hours just sitting here talking to you about the sinkhole and the cars that went down in it and the recovery of those cars. I want to talk to you briefly here about the actual museum, and I understand from Derek that the museum is currently closed because in the state of Kentucky you can't open museums just yet.
That's correct.
So what are you guys doing? Sitting around twiddling your thumbs? I don't think so.
No, we're doing a lot of behind the scenes work. We've been doing some renovations to, let's see if I can pull me back up. To a lot of the exhibit areas. So we're redoing.
So you're taking the opportunity to make some progress on updating the museum itself. How many square feet is the museum?
It is 115,000 square feet.
Oh my! So it's more than just what we're looking at there.
Yes. So, we're, I don't know how to turn this off from screen share.
It's okay. Yeah, we'll be right
we'll be
there.
there to do that for you.
Yeah. So Derek's team has actually been redoing the performance gallery and the design and engineering area. And they've been redoing all of the floors, and then we have a mid-engine Corvette exhibit that's opening, and that'll be open, within a couple of weeks. We're waiting on cars from GM. Let's see.
Is that going to be the Astro 1 and 2?
We'll
Serve
have
one and two.
Serve 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Yes.
Serve 1 and 2. We have the Indy concept car, Astrovet, Aerovet, XP987, and we have a powertrain development car that was used for the C8.
And those were all early concept cars of Corvette's world that were mid-engine cars back in the
Correct.
50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it kind of shows the history of that mid-engine car in the Corvette history for the C8 to be the first mid-engine production car in Corvette history.
Yes, it's called the Vision Realized, and it just highlights how GM's been working on a mid-engine car for a really long time.
A really long
But,
time.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you see my screen with this video? clip?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
So this, I'll make it a little bigger. We
Oh,
have
and
a really
Ed
cool
Roth.
exhibit for those of you that are familiar with Big Daddy Roth and
Yeah.
Greffy. So this is Cartoon Creatures, Custom Cars, and Corvettes. And it's an exhibit that walks you through the work of Ed Roth, how he started in the pinstriping business and doing t-shirt screen printing, and then got into creating these custom cars, which you see in the footage. That blue car that you saw, this one,
Yes.
this one's kind of cool. They found it in a dumpster in Juarez, Mexico. Actually, they were using it as a dumpster behind a restaurant in Juarez, Mexico. They found one little fleck of blue paint and one little piece of the fluffy carpet that they have inside. And his team was actually Galpin Auto Sports found it and restored it because it was a Roth car. And then after this one, you'll see what's known as the wishbone. And for those of you that collect, so right, not, oh, shoot, stop it, not wishbone.
Yeah, and I think there's
This
been
one
a
right here, the brown and cream one.
Yes.
Back when Hot Wheels was developing, well, Mattel was coming up with the idea of Hot Wheels. That was one of the first cars that they modeled a Hot Wheels after. So we have that one, and then the Wishbone car was just unveiled this week on Discovery Channel. Their show Car Kings that Galpin Auto Sports is on. This that you see here.
yeah,
is Tom Peters.
I'm a huge fan of that show.
So Tom Peters, of course, developed the C7 and C8 Corvette, and you see Sideswipe from the movies Transformers, and then Crosshairs from another Transformer movie. He was inspired by Ed Roth. So, you know, we feature Ed Roth's cars, Galpin Auto Sports cars, and then people that were influenced by Roth's work.
Katie, are
And
you?
this exhibit
Is this going to be on display all the rest of this
Yes.
year?
So it runs to the end of this year. Hopefully, we'll be able to open by the 1st of June. We've not been given an exact date, but our store opens this coming week. Our cafe opens, and then we're hoping for the museum to be open.
Now, Katie, you have a lot, not only fans of Corvettes, but you have Corvette clubs that come up there in mass, especially during the summertime when it's a great time to come to Kentucky to visit the museum and used to be take tours of the Corvette assembly factory. But I would imagine that you have plenty of hotels there at Bowling Green, and you can accommodate rather large groups of people there. Can you not?
Yeah, we can. I mean, Bowling Green has over 3,000 hotel rooms. We're home of the Hawley NHRA Hot Rod Reunion that's usually in June. Hawley LS Fest is in September. So we do a number of really large automotive events every year at Beach Bend Raceway and then at the NCM Motorsports Park. And in fact, they've been working on an East Coast Rat Fink reunion. They do one in Utah every year in the spring. And with us having this exhibit, they were planning on doing one. It'll be in late August. So assuming that we're allowed to have gatherings over, you know, a certain number of people, we'll plan on proceeding with that. But in the meantime, we're doing our first virtual event. It'll be May 28th and 29th. So that's a little less than 2 weeks away. And we have GM that's going to be Skyping in doing a Corvette seminar. We have, you know, the Corvette plant doing a seminar, and then Michelin and Mobile will be doing some, as well as our own seminars. It's all live. It'll be live streamed.
And how do they and how do people find that live stream?
You can go to CorvetteMuseum.org, and on the homepage of our website, if you scroll down, it has links to our upcoming events, so they can register for that.
Woo!
Cool. We'll put a
They'll
link
be
on our.
provided with a link to Zoom, so it'll be streamed through Zoom, and it's 2 days. Michelin's donated 4 sets of tires to give away, so you'll get they're each a $1,500 certificate towards light passenger or light truck or passenger vehicles. So people that pre-register for the event will automatically be entered for the tires. And then if you tune into the Michelin seminar and the GM seminar, we're giving away a set during each of those. We're working on doing a photo scavenger hunt as well with a lot of cool prizes. So even though you can't be here with us, we're trying to bring, you know, some of that fun to you, whether you're at home or wherever you may be.
Wait a minute. You just said that I can't be there with you. Well, you know, I've got a Corvette sitting right out here in front of Studio A. I'm thinking maybe we crank that thing up. I bring it up there and use as an excuse getting the air conditioning fixed in Bowling Green while I'm there. What do you think?
I mean, that's an option because, like I said, our store opens on the 20th and our cafe well, they're already open for carryout, but they'll open for dine-in on the 22nd. So that's next Friday. We have some Corvette clubs that are planning on, we'll be open Memorial Day weekend. So people will be able to come and at least shop in our store and eat in the cafe. And you can see the Gateway Gallery, and we'll have cars on our boulevard. So you'll be able to see at least a taste of it, even though the museum tours won't be open yet.
Yeah, we'll put your virtual tour up on our social media as well, see if we can't drive you a little traffic. But one of the things I did want to touch on is as C8 production comes up, I know in the Corvette world, people understand there's an RPO you can order on your Corvette for museum delivery. How soon do you think you guys will get that restarted as well?
Well, we have 2 cars left from carryover back when that stopped in March. We were continuing to deliver cars through all of this, just doing it with social distancing and meeting like the curbside requirements of Kentucky and having our health department on board with that. So the plant starts back up on Tuesday, May 26th with production. We will kick back off with our photo album option where we'll follow your car down the assembly line, taking pictures of it and put it in a nice leather-bound album if you want to order that. But then deliveries, once we start getting more cars, people can schedule those with us. For those people that are ready to come, whether or not we're open, we can still accommodate that. And then for those that maybe have travel restrictions or are not able, we can hold their cars. So we don't want, what's going on now to deter people. We've already implemented all the required safety measures recommended by the CDC and for our own state. Those are up on our website.
So, Katie, the one thing that you have to worry about is the fact that I have your cell phone number, and I'll be bothering you in the not-too-distant future. Here I come, Katie.
Join the club.
I'm telling you.
We'd love to have you.
Katie, thank you so much for having us today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. National Corvette Museum. She's the Director of Marketing Communications. Katie, I'll be seeing you this summer.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, thanks again. We appreciate it. All right, coming up here on the In Wheel Time Show, we're going to have a review of the 2020 Chevy Traverse. It's coming up next. We invite you to stay with us.
Man, I love my kids so much. I once sat for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch her soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much, I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Thanks for joining us today here on In Wheel Time, the car show. It's time now for this hour's car review. Last hour, Mr. Mars did the Hyundai Sonata. This time around, it's my turn. I got the 2020 Chevy Traverse. There are no fewer than 7. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 trim levels. The L, the LS, the LT cloth, the LT leather, the RS, the Premier, and the High Country. Friends, if you can't find a trim level to buy on the Chevy Traverse, well, I don't know what to tell you. I guess you need to go back to school or something. That's a lot. But the nice thing, generally speaking, about trim levels is the fact that the manufacturers kind of have a pretty good idea of what it is that you're looking as far as options are. So when you bump up from the base model, which is the L, and you get to the LS, the LT cloth, the LT leather on up, they package more and more options in these clusters of trim levels. And so I had the all-wheel drive, high country, top of the line, nanny, boo-boo, bad to the bone.
You always drive the fully loaded one.
No, not always.
You don't ever drive the stripper with
No. I never.
vinyl seats and
I don't
vinyl
drive
floors.
No. Do they even make those anymore? Vinyl seats and vinyl floors? How about radio and heater delete?
I don't know about radio and heater delete, but I know on like the pickup trucks you can still get the what's called WT, the work trucks.
Yeah. So at any rate, standard size SUV, according to the government, and they consider many things when they size a vehicle. This is really what we would call a mid-size to full-size crossover vehicle. How many passengers? Up to 8. Ours had a second-row captain's chairs, therefore it lost a passenger seat, so it's 7 passenger seating in this particular model. All new for 2018, wind-cheating front end, high belt line, bulging wheel openings, high-mounted rear lighting right underneath the back glass. What I liked about it, that all-American look. If you like that clean all-American look, this is probably your vehicle. 7 trim levels, you can pick pretty much what you like. Interior highlights include a conservatively designed straightforward dash, easy-to-use infotainment system. It has 2, count them 2, not mints in one, but 2 sunroofs.
Oh, your favorite. Give me a sunroof or give me death.
I just don't understand, Well, in Houston, Texas, no. And the problem with the sunroof, at least the front sunroof in this car, is that it's like a shade. It's either closed or it's open because it retracts the shade manually all by itself. Back it goes.
So you can't have the shade back and the roof closed.
You can't have the shade partially opened and the roof tilted up to allow for air circulation in 100-degree heat. So
that's what they make air conditioning for.
Yeah. Cargo, trunk room, gobs, especially with the third row and then, of course, the second row down. What I liked about it, quiet cabin. Again, that shade thing is just like, really? 3.6-liter V6, 310 horsepower, 266 pound-feet of torque, 9-speed automatic transmission. That combination works great for this. This is a very large vehicle, but it doesn't weigh as much as a Suburban.
Right.
And this would be, if I were in the market, if I had children these days, I would gravitate toward this vehicle as opposed to the Suburban because I never did it.
Big.
I never did any towing. And that's really about the Suburban is on a truck chassis.
Yeah. It's all about
body on frame, old school truck chassis. Not to put it down by any stretch of the imagination, but all that
it's a
weight.
different customer than what a Traverse would be.
Yeah. If you want to tow the big, walk through cabin boat behind the truck, behind the Suburban,
need
great.
Suburban.
But not this. This is a people vehicle. Tow rating up to 5,000 pounds, so you can put a small boat back there. 17 miles per gallon city, 25 highway for combined to 20. I got 22.9. Of course,
That's pretty good.
Most of my driving's done on the highway. What I liked about it, nicely aligned power to weight ratio and transmission. Ride and handling, not too rough, not too floaty, just right.
Thanks, Goldilocks. Because you got your hair colored.
Thank
it's
you.
gold again.
It's not gold. You're colorblind.
Well,
This is gold.
It's not gray and silver.
No, it's not.
It's more gold.
I did have
Did
a
you
little.
get a pedicure to go with it?
I did not get the pedicure.
I got a pedicure
I know that you
Wednesday.
do. That is disgusting. I don't want to ever see your feet, and I certainly am not going to touch them. The woman.
Me either. That's why I let them do it.
The woman that did it is probably dead now.
Well, she's been wearing a mask doing my feet since before
All
Corona.
of us, yeah. I would imagine. Yeah, with oxygen, no doubt. Ride and handling, we're going to send this to Chevrolet. Maybe we could cut this part of it out.
I'll see what I
Ride
can
and
do.
handling, I've already been over that. Steering, felt nicely weighted. Base trim price, $53,200. That's for the base. Price is tested, $55,390.
That's
Base
not much.
model price, $29,800. You can get in one of these things for $29,800.
Good range, considering the content level of it.
Competitors, Mazda CX-9, $33,800. Kia Telluride, $31,890. Ford Explorer, $32,765.
And they all bounce, their upper level ones all bounce into that same price range as the Traverse.
Yes, and next week I'm going to review its cousin, the Buick Avenir. And I think you're going to be truly surprised by that review.
The difference? I'll let it go. We'll leave it as a secret and let everybody have to come tune in and listen.
Good. That's perfect. We got the car calendar and the racing calendar coming up next here on the In Wheel Time radio program. And I think I need to do a little maneuvering here before I get to that, because I wasn't quite ready, but now I am.
Man, I love my kids so much. I won't stay for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch their soccer team lose by 18
Sir,
goals.
what is your location? I love my kids so much. I once used it too to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
Very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is
You
on
win.
the way.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens,
At a
visit
railway crossing, even if the
NHTSA.gov/the
engineer
right seat to
sees you
find
and
the right
hits the
seat for their
brakes,
age and
it can
size.
take a mile
Keep them
for the
safe.
train to
Visit
stop. And for you, that's
NHTSA.gov/the
too
right
late.
seat. Brought to you by the National
Trains
Highway
can't.
Traffic Safety Administration
Paid for
and
by
the Ad
NHTSA.
Council.
So, yeah, I got the commercial on and played another commercial right along with it. Same time. Way to go, Don, moron. Hey, it's Houston's In Wheel Time. Car show streaming right now on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com. We are all things automotive. And before we get too far into this, I did want to remind you that Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer, from mild to wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps. Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Putting some, 700 horsepower Hellcat motor in a Jeep. Okay, go for it. Let the Texas Truck Works team design and upgrade a plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at texastruckworks.com. Time now for the car calendar and the racing calendar. Conrad has that.
Yeah, car calendar, there's not just a ton of stuff going on in the future, but, there's things in plans. The Autos barbecue, that's kind of on hold right now. So, but as that comes up, I'll let everybody know. NASCAR is racing tomorrow at Richmond, so they're back on the track.
But there's not going to be anybody there.
No, there's not going to be anybody there, but we're still going to have NASCAR racing. And then IMSA is going to come back racing, and they start in June.
This is all TV stuff.
Correct. It's all July 4th. IMSA is going to be at Daytona, and then they're going to really boost up, and they're going to run all their races. They're going to go Daytona. They're going to go.
But without
Sebring.
any fans.
Without any fans initially, but as they move into August and September, the plan is to have fans back in the stands.
All right.
So, and right now, I think they're still tentative on the Spring Nationals at Baytown.
Yeah, they haven't canceled it yet.
Yeah,
but
last I heard was
June. I think it's going to move to October.
Okay. Yeah. Last I heard was June 20th or June 12th through the 14th out at Baytown. Don't know if that's going to happen yet.
They haven't canceled it yet, but whatever.
So that's the racing that's coming up.
Well, also what's coming up on I think it's June the 20th is our racing over at Houston Motorsports Park.
Right.
With the Texas Short
June
Track
the 20th.
Racing.
That's race number 1 for the
Texas Short Track Racing
Series.
You know, we ought to start singing, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
Do you sing?
Only in the shower, and no. Yes, I can carry a tune, but I need a bucket to do it in.
You're probably pretty good at
all of that money I got for singing lessons from my parents went up in smoke.
That's okay.
Boom.
Yeah, we need Jeff to bring his drums in here so he can give us a rim shot every now and then.
Sure, go ahead, do that. All right, we are going to take a quick break.
Lose control.
Again, as we always do. No, actually, you know what? We're not going to take a quick break. We're not going to do that. because I don't want to.
Well, we have Sue. Sue's here.
Is
Sue,
she?
Yep. Sue is
Good. Well, just hang on. Because I do want to play the bottom of the hour open because, it's what we do.
Well, I think we should.
Mm-hmm. So we can get into some more copyright trouble with ASCAP BMI and corporate copyright laws. And okay, fine.
Give them something to do.
We got written up on this from Facebook or YouTube, was it?
YouTube this time.
Yeah.
YouTube this time.
So whoever's out there listening, would you get over it? I mean, seriously. Have you got nothing else better to do with your life than turn somebody else in for minor stuff?
Sir, it's an algorithm program.
It's robots.
Al who?
Yeah, that guy.
Algorithm?
Yeah.
Al Gore has no rhythm.
It's audio bots.
And he doesn't know anything about the Internet.
Right.
All right.
Beside the point.
All right.
All right. Thank you. It's Houston's most in-depth car show. In Wheel Time, streaming right now on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com. We are all things automotive. Thank you so much for joining us for today's program. Just ahead, we continue our salute to the Lady of Firsts, Betty Skelton, as we talk to Sue Smith with the Indian River Corvette Club. We'll also have our Jeep Trails feature, this week's auto history, and today's auto news. It's all about the auto. Along with Mike out of this world Mars down there, King Conrad DeLong here. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us today. Thanks so much for being with us. Our guest right now, president and founder of the Indian River Corvette Club in Vero Beach, Florida, Sue Smith. Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm just fine.
Well, it's good.
A beautiful day in Florida.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Houston, Texas, too. You're there. We're here. We're talking about Betty Skelton, First Lady of Firsts. And this is what I understand was her first Corvette club, the Indian River Corvette Club there in Vero Beach.
Yes, that is correct.
And so do you have any memorabilia about Betty? Do you have any stories to tell? Did you know Betty?
Yes, we knew Betty. We were friends. We went to dinners together. We entertained at our homes together. And she was a lovely lady, extremely humble. And the unique part about her, I guess she did everything so she didn't have to boast about it. So you had to really work hard to get information about her accomplishments. She was that humble. But we loved her. We had a funny example in our club. One of the ladies, Ro Bryant, had bought a new kind of copper orange color Corvette, and she was so excited to show that to Betty. So she asked Betty to come out and look at it. And when Betty got out to the car, Betty said, "What are you going to name her?" And she says, "What?" And she says, "Oh, I've named every car I've owned. Every car has a name." So we know that about Betty. And the lady said, "Oh, well, I never thought about it, but here's a magic marker. Write your name in my glove box, and I'm going to call her Betty."
Betty.
How cool is that?
How awesome is that?
Yeah, exactly. So I assume that you have a Corvette as well, Sue.
Yes, I'm standing outside here in my front yard with my 2017 Corvette. It's a silver, beautiful town. I don't think you can really see anything but my head, but it's here.
Well, I'm glad that it's there. How long have you been a Corvette fan?
Well, I started.
Yeah, I know it's on her. Yeah,
I
Sue, we need you to move just a little bit from where you're standing because we're having a hard time getting you. You're digitizing over there and doing crazy things. And I know you like to digitize. I've heard that about you. But but at any rate, if you're a Corvette person, you know that I'm just teasing. But at any rate, yes. So you've got a 2017, I understand.
Yes, I do. Now, is this better? I came in my house out
Much
of the
better.
wind. I thought maybe that was a problem.
No, it's the
Much,
internet
much
connection.
better.
You're good. You're good.
So you're good. So I wanted to tell everybody that's just now joining us, this has been our salute really to Betty Skelton. I think that she has just lost us or something.
No,
You still there,
we're good.
Sue?
I'm here.
Okay. So Betty Skelton was a famous actually, she
Corvette test driver.
She was that, but she started off in the aviation industry at the age of 12, flying what turned out to be stunt planes, and she moved from there into Corvetting, and was introduced in the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, International Motorsports Hall of Fame, NASCAR International Automotive Hall of Fame in 1983, and the Corvette Hall of Fame in 2001. And she passed away in 2011, and I know that it was a loss for all of us, but she certainly lived a full life. And Sue, I had to tell you that I visited y'all's club website this morning, and I think that it was something about we have over 100 members and a couple of old grouches. And I wanted to focus in on the old grouches. Who are they?
Well, I really don't know any old grouches. I'm the president of the club, and I love everybody. Everybody's personality is unique.
Well, there's no doubt about it.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah, and I would imagine that you have a very active Corvette club down there in Vero Beach.
Yes, we meet 2 times a week regularly, and then once a month we usually have an activity beside that. We have a dinner meeting at CJ Cannon's restaurant. And then we have a mystery dinner ride where we meet at a location and someone has set up a dinner ride for us, and we don't know where we're going. We all follow each other and are given a slip of paper in case you get lost from the pack. And then we have some other kind of a social activity besides those 2 meetings.
I'm coming down there. Is it okay if I just join up with you guys?
We would love it.
Don has a Corvette as well.
I have a 2001. I'm old school, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we also have a 1985 that we drag race.
Oh, you do. And
Yeah.
and do you have a drag strip nearby?
Yes, it's about an hour away over in Morosa.
Okay.
Do you drive it on the strip?
No. I don't even ride in it on the strip. It's my husband that's the hot foot in our family.
The hot shoe, as it were. From what I understand from your website, the Corvette Club there, Indian River, has been around since 1999. You're the founder of it. How in the world did you decide that you wanted to start a Corvette Club? Because I have to tell you that there was a point in my life that a handful of us, decided that we were going to break away from the Corvette Club that we were in because they were more into racing and we were more into show and social activities. And we started our own. And I have to tell you that it was truly a real royal pain to try to keep like herding cats. It was very difficult to keep the Corvette Club going, and we ultimately said, we're done with this. So kudos to you to have been head of the Corvette Club for all these years.
Yeah, we asked the DMV if they could give us a list of all of the Corvette owners in Indian River County, and back in that day in 1999, and my husband worked for the county, so they knew him well. Somehow or other, we got the list, and we called people, and we had a meeting in the parking lot of Service Merchandise, and we formed from there, and it's just been wonderful, and we've just kept growing.
How did you manage to get Betty Skelton down there?
We just got lucky. She just came to Vero Beach, and she was such an exciting woman. In 1956, the Corvette, Chevrolet gave her a special gold Chevrolet.
Right.
And she also loved her car then so much that all of the astronauts she ever flew with, she helped them all become Corvette owners. So, I don't know how she came to Vero Beach. I really never asked her that, but she loved it here. And when they moved over to the Villages, she wasn't real happy, but of course she loved her husband, so she went with him. But they still came back for some of our meetings. So she's a lifelong member now. We've honored her.
Well, that's truly remarkable, and kudos to you. What a great woman, the First Lady of First, Betty Skelton. And Sue, you've got your website was truly wonderful because I noticed that unfortunately you had to cancel many of your events because, as you put it on the website, the Chinese virus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not to offend,
that's right.
not to offend anybody, but I thought that there was a little bit of humor in that myself, personally.
It's from China.
It's from China. Yes, that's exactly right. But your website. I don't know who handles your website, but kudos to them because what a great website you've got there. It's not complicated, but it certainly makes the point. And I love the cruises that you guys do to the restaurants. I think that is a wonderful idea, and I wish that we could have some of that going on around here.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, it's great to talk to you, Sue. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us.
Yes, thank you.
We really appreciate it. And let's stay in touch because we need to know what's going on down there in Florida and the Corvette Club and Indian River.
All right. Well, thank you for calling.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.
How
How
fun.
cool.
Sue Smith, the president and founder of the Indian River Corvette Club in Vero Beach, Florida. Too much fun. Yes, I'm going to get to that. Is that today in history?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got
Or
that.
this week.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, what a great connection. You know, we've been able to put together 4 wonderful interviews and great stories that all relate to Betty and her history through Chevrolet, General Motors, and then through just her love for Corvettes. I'm motivated to go try and reach out to some of these guys that own some of these astronaut Corvettes. As I was researching on Betty, I kind of found a couple of these guys, and I'm going to throw a reach out to them and see if they want to do a mystery garage segment with us.
I actually do have the information on the fellow that lives in Austin that has one of the.
Is that the gold one with the black? Oh, okay, that was one I wanted to reach out. He's actually got 3. He's got 3 Corvettes.
Well, originally when I did the story on him in one of the magazines that I wrote for, he only had 1, and he was trying to get the other 2.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating story. Was it a 68 or 69 Corvette?
I think it was 69.
Yeah, and that's another story for another day, and we'll get into that. We've actually had him on this show when we did the Corvette show down in Galveston because he showed the car down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, we
Well,
sure
good.
did.
So we'll get him back.
Yeah, we will. But yes, the history with Corvettes and astronauts goes way back. Did you ever see the movie Hidden Figures?
No.
You must see the movie Hidden Figures.
I'll have to look for it on Netflix.
Yes, it is truly my daughter turned me on to it. It's a great movie about the astronauts and back in the day and the racial makeup of the whole thing with getting us to the moon and the computers back then.
Oh, the women who did all the math work.
The black women. Yes, that was their title.
Had it not been for them, never would have happened.
Correct. Anyway, great movie. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we are going to do a couple things. One is we're going to have our This Week in Auto History, and I've got a toolbox feature, and I think that you're really going to like it. I found it actually from a friend of mine that posted it on Facebook, and I was in tears this morning sitting. I woke the dog up. I was laughing so hard. I think that you'll really enjoy it. So I want you to stay tuned for all of that. It's coming up next.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It's the In Wheel Time program for this Saturday. I hope that you're doing well today. Thank you for joining us on all of our social media platforms. So, there was this article that was on there, and it's called Tools Explained. What is a drill press? A tall, upright machine useful for suddenly snatching flat metal bar stock out of your hands so that it smacks you in the chest and flings your beer across the room, denting the freshly painted project which you had carefully set in the corner where nothing could get to it.
Been there, done that. Lost fingernails to drill presses over my life.
Wire wheel. Cleans paint off of bolts, then throws them somewhere under the workbench with the speed of light. Also removes fingerprints and hard-earned calluses from fingers in about the time it takes you to say, oh, fill in the blank. Drop saw. Portable cutting tool used to make studs too short. Pliers, used to round off bolt heads.
Yep.
Sometimes used in the creation of blood blisters. Belt sander. An electric sanding tool commonly used to convert minor touch-up jobs into major refinishing jobs.
As it goes shooting across the floor.
Hacksaw, one of a family of cutting tools built on the Ouija board principle. It transforms human energy into crooked, unpredictable motion, and the more you attempt to influence its course, the more dismal your future becomes. Vice grips, generally used after pliers to completely round off bolt heads. If nothing else is available, they can be also used to transfer intense welding heat to the palm of your hand.
Been there, done that.
Oxyacetylene torch, used almost entirely for lighting on fire various flammable objects in your shop. Also handy for igniting the grease inside the wheel hub out of which you want to remove a bearing race. Table saw, a large stationary power tool commonly used to launch wood projectiles for testing wall integrity. Hydraulic floor jack, used for lowering an automobile to the ground after you have installed your new brake shoes, trapping the jack handle firmly under the bumper. Bandsaw, a large stationary power saw primarily used by most shops to cut wood, cut good aluminum sheet into smaller pieces that more easily fit into the trash after you cut out the inside of the line instead of the outside edge. How many times have you done that? 2-ton engine hoist, a tool for testing the maximum tensile strength of everything you forgot to disconnect.
Well, that and, you know, that 2-ton engine hoist that you hang from a 1-ton tree branch.
Yeah, that's right. The whole thing comes down. Phillips screwdriver, normally used to stab the vacuum seals under lids or for opening old-style paper and tin oil cans and splashing oil on your shirt, but also can be used, as the name implies, to strip out Phillips head screws.
And never, ever get them out again. Just move on. You're not going to take that off.
Straight screwdriver, a tool for opening paint cans, sometimes used to convert common slotted screws into non-removable screws and butchering your palms.
And, yes, doing puncture marks in your hands.
Pry bar, a tool used to crumple the metal surrounding that clip or bracket you needed to remove in order to replace a 50-cent part.
My pry bar I used when I was turning wrenches was a Chrysler torsion bar. I mean, it was like 3.5 feet long, and I could move everything with it.
Hose cutter, a tool used to make hoses too short.
Everybody's done that one.
Hammer, originally employed as a weapon of war, the hammer nowadays is used as a kind of divining rod to locate the most expensive parts adjacent the object we're trying to hit.
That's too funny.
Well, it goes on and on. There's the SOB tool, any handy tool that you grab and throw across the garage while yelling SOB at the top of your lungs. It's also most often the next tool that you will need.
That you're not going to find.
That's right, because it's
bounced around somewhere.
Across the garage. All right. Let's do This Week in Auto History.
Well, lots of stuff this week in automotive history. In 1994, it was the opening of the Channel.
Oh, my God, I remember that. 94, yeah.
The Channel Tunnel Bridge that goes between Great Britain and France. And actually, they put, you know, what they call lorries, we call 18-wheelers, on that as they transport underneath the Channel Bridge. Roberto Guerrero had set the Indy 500 qualifying speed record in a Lola powered, or in a Buick powered Lola, when he went 232.5 miles per hour. No, different Roberto Guerrero. Alfred P. Sloan was elected president of General Motors in 1923. In 1916, Charles Kettering and Edward Deeds agreed to sell their Dayton Engineering Laboratories Company to General Motors. Dayton Engine Laboratories Company, Delco. That's when
Delco,
Dayton Engine
but
Laboratories.
Oh, I
Company.
could think it was Dayton Belts.
Yeah, no, Dayton Engineering Laboratories Company has become Delco as we know it today, which is the electronics.
They still
arm.
make Delco belts, don't they?
Yeah,
Dayton
yeah.
Belts.
Dayton Belts, different companies.
Oh, okay.
And then in 1947, Enzo Ferrari made his independent racing debut in Italy. Enzo had been designing race cars for Alfa Romeo for quite some time, and then after World War II, he decided to start his own brand, and he adopted the now famous prancing horse logo in honor of an Italian World War I ace, Enrico Barcata, who used the logo on his fighter plane. Small little piece of trivia that I didn't know, but I do now.
Do we really care about that one?
Yeah, I'm a Ferrari fan.
It had anything to do with ricotta cheese? That's kind of thinking myself.
In 2000, this week was the time when Adam Petty lost his life at Loudon, New Hampshire, in a practice accident, and that was kind of the inkling of the start of safer barriers that they now use in NASCAR. So now, not just a hard concrete wall, they have another what's called a false wall or a safer barrier with a cushion between them to soften the impact of a vehicle smacking into the wall. Cerebus Capital Management, a private equity firm, acquired 80% of Chrysler from Daimler for $7.4 billion. Now, you got to remember, Chrysler paid $36 billion or Daimler paid $36 billion for Chrysler back in 1998. So in just 9 years, it went from a $36 billion sale to a 7.4. Good investment for Cerebus, and now they're out of it, and Fiat Chrysler is the owner. In 1981, the 20 millionth Volkswagen Beetle was built this week.
Well, they're not building any of them anymore.
No, that's actually gone out of production, but
finally,
lots of little cool things happened this week.
Okay, well, we've got some automotive stories that I was going to try to get in before the end of the show. Is that okay?
Yep.
Do we have everything in that we needed to get in today?
I believe we do.
Mr. Mars hasn't said 2 words in 20 minutes. I don't know what he's doing over there. What are you doing over there?
Yeah,
he's doing
taxes. No, we've got everything in that we need to get in except for Jeep Trails.
And no, Larry Gallo, they do not play Glenn Miller music on the Tunnel Train. but thanks for asking.
Yes, thanks for being you. We really appreciate it. We've got more coming up right after this quick break.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
It's the In Wheel Time Car Show coming to you from Houston, Texas. I know that last week anyway, had some global visitors. Actually, a couple from China, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
That was kind of weird. We had some from Germany. Have you checked in on that?
And the Netherlands. There's a couple of guys, and we actually get...
So it'd be people that can't sleep, basically.
Well, we actually get a pretty fair people from Colombia, and I'm not real sure why. I don't know if it's one of your connections from the past.
Colombia. British Columbia?
No.
Oh, in South America.
Go a little further south.
Uh-huh. The Medellin cartel, you mean?
Hopefully not.
Okay. All right, time now for this week's Jeep Trails. Mr. Mars has that.
We like to talk about the Jeep lifestyle and how it's getting out and about. And we talked recently about taking the top off if you've got one of the hard tops, taking it off and all those things.
Careful now.
But the thing you also have to do is you have to take the doors off. If you really want to be out, you got to be out and about to take the doors off. No big deal. They made them easy to take off. Made them a little bit lighter weight to do. But what do you do with them? You can put them in. They make some little plastic type things that you can put them in, and you can put them in the back of the Jeep, or you can put them over in the corner of the garage, or Steinegger door hanger. This is for Jeep Wranglers to where it mounts on the wall, and you can hang your Jeep doors on the wall.
Wrong camera. It's
Wrong
that
camera, whatever camera. So that camera right there. So anyway, it mounts on the wall, and you can hang, so you can put your doors right up here, and you can make it just like a museum. And then you roll the windows down, and you can have pictures inside the doors, so that inside the glass of the doors and stuff. But so you have them up there, and they hang on the wall just like a pair of angel wings.
So like a virtual Moab trip. Never mind. Go ahead, Don. It's up to you. We've lost control again.
Oh, good God.
At least we waited until almost the end of the show to completely lose control.
We apologize.
These are really good. So go if you're looking for a way something to do with your doors. Then
see, now if it were up to me, I'd get some 10-penny nails, hammer those into the wall with that rounded off ball peen hammer, hammer those into the wall, and then take the door, roll the window down, and hang it on the wall.
No, they'll scratch up the paint. That won't hang it. This hangs by the hinges, so it's just like hanging it back on the Jeep.
It's a hinge.
I'm just teasing.
It's a hinge hanger.
God, such a party pooper.
That's why we invited you.
So, at any rate, I am going to give you a couple of stories that I think that you might be interested in. Remember me last week telling you about Tesla?
Yes.
Well, there's more news about Tesla.
Elon, come to Texas, please.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on Tuesday that he spoke with Elon in recent days about a potential move of the company's electric vehicle assembly plant to the Lone Star State. Come on, baby. Abbott's remarks came just 3 days after Musk threatened to move Tesla's headquarters and future operations to either Texas or Nevada after officials in California, where Tesla's only U.S. vehicle factory is located, said the plant could not reopen because coronavirus lockdown measures remained in place. Nancy Pelosi has something to do. Why doesn't she go home and do something there instead of never mind.
But then he did open.
Late Tuesday, county officials said the plant in Fremont could reopen next week if the company adopts new safety guidelines. Musk, no stranger to Texas. His SpaceX spacecraft manufacturer has a launch site near the southern tip of the state, near the village of Boca Chica. I didn't know there's a Boca Chica, Texas.
I think it's down near Brownsville.
It is, yes. We've talked about this again. We're going to continue to talk about it because Hertz, the car rental company,
Hertz is hurting.
They're hurting bad, and we don't want them to go out of business. Trust me, that would be a terrible thing for all of us.
Yes.
And so we're keeping our fingers crossed for Hertz.
One of the things about Hertz is their telemarketing center is based in Oklahoma City. So it's not like you call in and you don't get, you get people with an Oklahoma accent answering the phone.
Do people in Oklahoma have an accent?
To people in New York, yes.
That would be you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Oklahoma, New York. People in Oklahoma have an accent. Well, that's a new one on me.
It's a quarter. It's a quarter past.
That's New York.
That's New York.
Yeah, you're not gonna get
coffee.
Coffee.
CAWFFIE.
Uber outlined new safety measures at a virtual event on Wednesday, a move aimed to inspire more drivers and riders to feel comfortable getting in a shared car again. Rules will require drivers, passengers, and food delivery couriers to wear face masks. Duh.
I understand Uber also said you're not allowed to ride in the front of an Uber anymore. You'll have to ride in the back, and the
That's
max number
weird.
of people is 3. So we're going to put 3 people in the back of a Nissan Versa. Not happening for this cowboy.
I want to see that.
You never will. I'll go back to renting a car instead of Uber.
Well, I guess you could get in there and lay down, huh?
You just chop me in little pieces.
Exactly. Plant shutdowns due to the coronavirus will result in roughly 2-month delays for several of Ford Motor Company's highly anticipated vehicle programs, including the redesigned F-150 pickup truck and new Bronco SUV. But a top executive said the automaker doesn't envision additional postponements. Okay, we'll see. Well, I guess that's all because the music is playing.
Huge shout out to George Skelton for helping us today on putting the stories together about Betty. The National Corvette Museum.
Yeah, it was really a good, interesting segment.
That's it for today's In Wheel Time Car Show. When you're on Facebook, please give us a like. You'll get Conrad's Unicorn Hunting features along with all things automotive. And while you're online, sign up for our feeds on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and every other social media site, too. Our website is inwheeltime.com, and it's there which you can download our show podcasts. In Wheel Time Chief Engineer, the fabulous David Ainsley. Our class merrymaker, Jeff Zekin, is our video technical director today. Blame it all on him. Special thanks to George Skelton for all his help on today's tribute to his Aunt Betty Skelton, the First Lady of Firsts. Next week, we talk about infotainment systems in today's cars and trucks. For Mike Out of This World Mars and King Conrad DeLong, I'm Don Armstrong. Thank you for following In Wheel Time. Please tell all your friends about us, share your posts, and encourage your friends and family to join us, won't you? Have a great week. Stay cool like you know you are. We'll see you live online next Saturday, May 23rd, noon to 2 Central, on all your popular social media platforms, and we will see you then.